UFC Kansas City was a spectacular fight card. We had a main event that came down to the wire. We had a co-main event that didn't really matter much for the division, was setting some future fights up. Though, and overall, it was an awesome fight card. The question now is, what is next? What should the matchups be next? My name is Angelo. This is Josh Thomson, and welcome to a What Matchup Should We Make Next episode of Bad Takes. Josh, what did you think of UFC Kansas City?
I thought it was a great card. I mean, if you were to like say rate it between a 1 to 10, what would you give it?
That was like an 8. There was only a couple of like boring decisions, but there were 14 fights.
Yeah, no, I agree. I give it an 8.5 actually. So I actually outpunted the coverage on you on. Hey, sorry, man. I mean, like, but coming from a real professional's opinion, not a casual.
Easier to please.
8.5. Yeah, a little easier to please. Yes, I am getting older in age, and it doesn't take much these days. Like you blow in my direction, and I'm already getting turned on. So that's all it takes these days. Yeah, look, I actually am kind of excited about doing this whole format with you, and I'm gonna probably even maybe do something like this with Big John as well, because I want to get his idea of who he thinks could possibly be next. But this is a great little segment, man. I love this whole thing. But what were your thoughts overall in terms of at the end of the main event? Was it? I just want to give you a quick little announcement. I don't want to get into the whole fight breakdown stuff. I want to talk about what's next for obviously the two guys at the main event. But then we'll get into like whoever won, pretty much talk about the main event fighters and the winners and where they go next. Maybe a couple occasional losers here and there. But bottom line is what were your thoughts on the fight, and especially that 5th round?
So in that main event, it felt very much like Ian was just a little faster, a little cleaner, and actually doing stuff. Carlos Prates was way too hesitant, wasn't really letting his hands go. Takedown defense looked good though. Some of those Ian Garry shots were deep as hell, like super deep singles. He just never learned how to finish it. He didn't run the pipe. He didn't turn it into a double, just kind of hung on to it. And then Carlos would fall to the hip, drag by, and he was fine.
You wouldn't know what it's like to ever get that deep on anything, but go right ahead.
Are you in? Are you all the way in? I get that a lot.
It's like, yeah. You're like, yeah, I'm actually done. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's already over.
I've been in and out a handful of times. So
yeah.
My straight up opinion on that 5th round, the last minute, I felt like, and I'm no referee, but it felt like that Carlos Prates was 6 or 7 hammer fists away from that ref calling it. Like Ian Garry was crawling for his life to the cage, and Carlos was, I don't know if he was too tired or what, because his cardio actually seemed okay for a smoker. He was a couple of hammer fists away of just like, be busy for the ref to be like, all right, well, yeah, we got problems here.
Well, yes. For a smoker, I thought his cardio was fantastic. I mean, I've never smoked a day in my life, but I thought for someone that smokes, man, he was spectacular. It really just came down to me. The whole fight was about the speed, and Ian Garry had the speed advantage and the lateral movement, and just his footwork was on point. He is a fantastic fighter on the feet. And like you were saying, his wrestling was actually not bad. Carlos Prates' takedown defense was fantastic. He got away from the single legs, because Prates' single leg defense was spectacular. Pushing the head down, going to the butt, pushing him forward, driving his face into the mat. Beautifully done. Was able to get a reversal on one of them, especially in the 5th round. Going from the double legs. Then he started going to double legs and had some success there. Just wasn't able to maintain top position enough. I thought overall, though, Ian Garry fought a very smart fight. I had it 3 rounds to 2, though. I believe I gave props to Steve in the 4th round, but it was a good fight, man. It was like, I think everyone's going to go. They're going to watch that fight, or they did watch it, and the whole time just kicking and stomping their feet going, man, if you put money on Prates, all you got to do is throw. All you got to do is throw. You're yelling at the TV. And I mean, that's exactly what it came down to. The speed was giving him such problems that he had no adjustments he could make, because speed kills. He was afraid to overextend on things, leave himself open. Ian Garry hit him with something, and it could be over. Nobody wants to lose to somebody with a mouth like Ian Garry. That's what the bottom line comes down to. When you're fighting a cuck, you don't want the cucks. You don't want your name coming out of the cuck's mouth. That's really what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it really is now. Like, how many times have you seen two guys get into it and they hate each other, right? Nobody wants to lose to that guy. So it ends up being a total snooze fest. This fight was not a snooze fest because it finished really well, in the 5th round. I had actually asked Big John yesterday, I go, what were your thoughts on that 5th round? Should have been a 10-8. And he's like, no, it just wasn't long enough. And I actually agreed with him.
Yeah, because it was only like a minute and a half of like Ian's fighting for his life, not the whole round.
Yeah, I mean, he was literally on his. I mean, people were having fun today with the memes, by the way. There's so many memes going out there right now.
Seen any?
You didn't see any? No. Yeah, him crawling on his hands and knees, and hey, it's basically like talking about his wife and like, hey, when you're done. and there's one where his, Ian Garry's forehead is hitting on the ground and Prates is behind him. There's that. And then obviously at the very end, he's trying to get him to get down on his knees and like show respect to each other. And Prates is like, no, I'm just standing on my feet. Like, he's trying to drag, Prates down to the ground. I was like, ooh, this is a really bad look. And I go, the internet's going to be undefeated by tomorrow. Like, they're still undefeated. It's going to continue to be undefeated. And in this situation, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It didn't take long, literally like a couple hours. This morning I woke up and it was just like meme city all over my Twitter. Yeah,
it is crazy how fast the internet works, dude. Even in our Discord, people will meme me inside of 7 minutes. It makes no sense whatsoever. It was an interesting main event, and let's talk about the matchups to make next for a lot of these guys. So we have the full. Let me switch the view here. We have the full main card. Let's talk through. Overall, you loved the card. I loved the card. There were some great fights on the undercard as well, but we'll talk about the main card because it definitely delivered. And we'll start with that main event. We'll work on the top, work out backwards here. Ian Garry, Carlos Prates. Ian did say after that fight, he is the backup for the UFC 315 main event. So technically, that's what's next for him. But let's just assume, he's not going to fight at UFC 315. There's no issues. Bilal ends up fighting JDM, and we're good there. So at this point, it's obviously pretty clear he's going to get a title shot, right? They don't make him the backup, and then they're going to throw him in a random matchup after that. Do you think? I mean, we both think Bilal's going to end up winning, but do you think Ian Garry is going to end up fighting Bilal? Do you think we end up with some weird injury? How do you think that's going to go?
I don't think he ends up fighting Bilal, even if there is a weird injury. I mean, he's saying he's the backup, but possibly he might be. I think the JDM will get there. I think Bilal will end up winning the JDM fight. I think that fight's going to be a better fight than most people are giving credit for, but without getting too much into that fight. Ian Garry, to me, though, for somebody who is, if he doesn't get that Bilal fight or he doesn't get that title shot, let's say it's JDM, like what happens if Bilal gets hurt? And then you have basically Ian Garry fights JDM for the interim title, I would imagine. I would almost be willing to bet they'd throw an interim title up there.
And even if he doesn't fight one of them in 2 weeks, it seems like he'll end up fighting one of them in 6 months or so. They're going to make him the backup. They're going to give him the next title shot.
No, I don't think they're going to give him the next title shot. You got Shavkat. You got Sean Brady. You got Sean Brady's number one. Shavkat's number two. You got two other guys that are right there in line. There's no way that Ian Garry's leapfrogging those two guys. There's just no way. I mean, if you want to throw someone in there, if like someone gets hurt, because if I'm Sean Brady and I'm Shavkat, I really don't want to take my chance on short notice. Go ahead and let Ian Garry do it. Okay. Like most people say, like, let the cuck do it. Like, go right ahead. You can jump in there on short notice. You can be the backup fighter. Those fights are very hard to deal with. Like I was a, what do they call it? I was a floater fight. I don't think it was called a floater fight. It was that's when you were before the main card, and depending on the time that you go after. Yeah. I fought Dwayne Ludwig as a floater fight, basically like in the middle, and they just didn't know where to put us. And it came down to the time and when it was going to happen and this and that. And if you don't make it in that time frame, you fight at the end of after the main event. Yeah. That's a Bellator thing. Yeah. That's a Strikeforce was doing it before. Okay. Yeah. So, I ended up being one of those, and it was such a shitty situation especially against Dwayne Ludwig. Like you had to make sure you were always ready, and it just was a shit situation to be in. But luckily we were on the main card. It's like, that's what it's got to feel like getting ready for a title fight. Like if you're someone that, okay, I'm training, I'm in shape, I'm ready to go. I put all the effort in, but are you really training as hard as you could have for a title shot? Yeah, you just kind of, and they pay you well too. Yeah, because in the back of your mind, that you're probably not fighting. So you put in that extra mile, probably not. You hitting the extra, two rounds of pads, probably not. Not every night, not every time. So I'll just miss. Hey, are you going to eat that little bit of extra cheeseburger? Absolutely. For those, Angelo, you can't walk past a cheeseburger. I have that. Listen, we went out to eat. I barely ate. I barely touched my food. Everybody's like, "Are you okay? Are you sick? What's going on?" I barely ate. I barely touched. It was unbelievable. Eric sent me photos of the waitress with two hands and like someone coming behind her bringing you your food. What are you talking about? That was Friday. that was Friday. Yeah. You're still full from Friday night. Yeah, correct. You're still full. That's what it came down to. So look, if I'm going to go Ian Garry, let's just put all the championship stuff aside and the potential of a fight for that. Let's be realistic about it. I've got two guys that I want him to fight. Okay. It's going to be two, but there's two possible outcomes. Either Leon Edwards in a stand-up fight would be a great fight, or he fights the winner of Kamaru Usman and Buckley. Because look, Sean Brady right now is number one, Shavkat number two. They'd already kind of promised Shavkat the title shot, but I honestly believe that Sean Brady, with his last couple of performances, deserves that title shot before Shavkat. So maybe you have Shavkat fight, somebody else in there, but I'm simply saying I think you have Leon and Ian Garry, and I think you have Sean Brady fight for the title, and Shavkat is got to fight somebody else. Maybe he fights JDM if he loses, and you get that fight in there.
I think I like your note about the winner of the Buckley Kamaru fight, because Ian Garry was already supposed to fight Buckley. Yep. That didn't happen because they did the shuffling so that he could fight Shavkat. And if Kamaru wins, great. He gets to fight a former world champion. So I actually love that idea. That's probably the best idea. If he's not going to get a title shot, that's the best. That's the best possible one, because the rankings are Sean Brady, Shavkat, Leon. Dude, Leon's on a wild skid right now. He's looking worse and worse every fight. If the UFC cares about Leon, they should give him a winnable fight and not just completely end his career.
No, they're at another stage right now where, like, you've been champion, you had two chances to get it, you had an opportunity to get it back, and you just come off the loss to Sean Brady. Like, no, they're like, hey, look, you ran your course, let's move on. Yeah. You're not old, but you're not getting any younger. So I could see them going Leon versus Ian Garry, and I can see Shavkat fighting the winner of Buckley and Kamaru Usman, while Sean Brady gets his title shot of the winner of JDM and
sure.
Ball.
Yeah, those are all interesting matchups there. And if we talk about Carlos Prates, obviously he was on the other side of that fight. He worked his way up the ladder, had a couple of spectacular finishes, was on a 10-fight win streak, all the things. Came out here, he didn't quite look like himself, right? He didn't really let the hands go. To your point, the speed of Ian Garry seemed to be a problem, was kind of beating him to the punch, and Prates was sort of playing defense, a little hesitant. In the fifth round, we almost had that wild comeback moment. What's next for Carlos Prates? Does he stay at the top of this food chain? Because Ian Garry's ranked 7th in the world. And obviously Carlos Prates fell short there. Carlos is ranked 13th.
Am I running this show? Because you never gave us your pick for who Ian Garry is.
I agree. No, I think it should be the winner of I agree with you. It should be the winner of Buckley and Usman. I think that's
okay. You don't think Leon, though? You don't think Leon?
No. Honestly, to me, Leon's a nobody. He's done.
Whoa.
He's been getting smacked around. He's not even losing by a little. Like, he's getting absolutely worked over. If the UFC really wants to put the nail in his coffin, give Shavkat to him, and then let Shavkat finish him. And to your point, Sean Brady probably leapfrogged because of his performance. So yeah. I was never a huge Leon fan. I don't even think he beat Usman the second time. In my mind, he's on a 3-fight losing skid.
Oh, wow. Interesting. All right, so now you've got Carlos Prates. Who do you think?
I think Carlos Prates versus MVP would be awesome. I think he's
at 85 now. That's not even an option anymore.
That's right. I forgot he moved up and he was staying there. All right. So then Carlos Prates
I'm glad you did your research today.
Well, he's still ranked. I'm looking at the ranking. He's still ranked at welterweight.
I know.
Then let's do Carlos Prates versus the budget MVP, and that is Fort Worth's own what the hell is his name? Oh my God. Never stops talking. Talented striker, can't defend takedowns to save his life. The comment section is going to save me before you do.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
Kevin
Holland. The comment section got me there. Kevin Holland. Prates versus Kevin Holland is a solid matchup to make next.
You
Two
think
solid strikers. Yeah, because what are you going to do? If I'm looking at the rankings here, Carlos is ranked 13th.
Jeff Neal. How do you not see that fight written on the wall? 2 power punchers, guys that will stand and get after it. Jeez, man. Angelo, I fucking lobbed you up a softball. You couldn't hit that shit out of the park. I'm like, yo, Angelo, what do you think?
I think Jeff Neal is booked right now. I'm pulling it up. I think he's booked.
Okay. When's he fighting?
He is. I don't know. I got to pull it up.
There you go. When is he fighting? Look, I don't care if he's booked now. That means if he fights in the next couple of weeks, which is up until June, that means that the two of them can fight probably sometime in September.
You know what's so funny about that? Done. He was supposed to fight Carlos Prates. They were supposed to fight, and that fell apart for this. Okay. So, yeah, all right. Yeah.
There you go. You got the two heavy-handed fighters, stand and bang, get after it. And let's be honest, Jeff Neal had a really great fight against Shavkat. So I know he came on losing.
He was the first person that showed Shavkat can be human.
Yeah, not only that, he's the first person I think got Shavkat. He's the first one. He didn't get finished. Or no, he did get finished at the very end.
But it was late. It was third round. Yeah.
Yeah, third round. Yeah. Standing rear naked, correct?
It was something like that.
Yeah, he just rear naked or standing side choke or something like that. Yeah. Bottom line is Prates and Garry, or Prates and Jeff Neal, great fight. Two guys with heavy hands. We'll get after it. You know, Jeff Neal is just one of those guys that he's always going to be a tough fight no matter who you match him up against. And Prates he's got more weapons and more tools in his toolbox. But we saw last night, he's very hesitant to use them sometimes when he knows that he's going to have a hard time catching you and if he leaves himself out of position. He was when I watched it last night, he seemed very slow.
Yes.
He was swinging the air the first couple rounds. I mean, he only landed, 4 to 6 strikes in the first 3 rounds in each round.
It was I was getting worried he was going to get finished. I'm like, this isn't great. Dude, he ate that big uppercut in like the second or the third. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah, he had no answer for the speed, man. Speed kills, and it's so hard to deal with that. I've trained with guys that were so fast, and I'm like, dude, once I get my hands on you, there's just no way you're getting away from me. There's just no way. I can't let this go on. You know, but yeah, you got to take those licks to get in there and get it. And once you finally do get them, it's you got to get them down and hold them down and control them. He was able to do that in the 5th, but I like the Jeff Neal fight. To me, that's the fight to make. The two of them, like you said, they were supposed to fight already. Fantastic fight. Let's watch a slobber knocker. Those guys will get after each other.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, for a guy with a ton of absolute dog shit takes for the most part, you've had 2 good ones in a row. If we go to the co-main event, we only have one fight to worry about because Anthony Smith retired. So it's just what's next for Zhang Ming Yang. And this is an interesting situation because he did just beat the absolute crap out of Anthony Smith, but there were no surprises there. Everybody saw that coming. That was pretty much what was going to happen. The UFC designed it that way, and that's how it went down. He's doing well. He has all finishes, all first round finishes for wins. He's in a pretty weak division, so the UFC has a couple of options, right? He's a big Chinese guy that's exciting. He's a representative of a market that they really care about with a ton of fans. So do they push him a little too fast to the top, or do they continue to build him and turn him into something huge? He's not ranked yet. He'll end up being ranked 15th because he'll take Anthony Smith's spot. Above him is Alonzo Menafield, Bogdan Guskov. Both of those matchups are very good matchups, dangerous guys that are of more appropriate age. Azamat Mirzakhanov, no interested in that. Johnny Walker is another fight.
Are you just going to read off all the rankings? Or are you going to actually tell us who you think you would like them to fight? Because look, are you ever just leaving this up to everyone's perception of what you think? Like, what are you going to do? Pick the fighter. Stop sandbagging this thing.
I'm giving you 3.
You want. This is a one fight. What do you want? Stop giving us 3 options.
I'm a very long-winded gentleman.
Here's what I was going to say. A lot of air in there.
Giant lung. Hey, every time I do the breathing test to the doctor, they're like, "Great, that's nice. Great lung capacity on you."
It's like, yeah, blow into my whistle. Go right ahead.
Johnny Walker is the matchup I do like. Okay. I think Johnny Walker, because there's some name notoriety. Johnny Walker is enormous, and Zhang will knock him out and continue to work up the rankings in a logical order and get himself closer to another first-round finish. I think Johnny Walker is a perfect matchup for him.
Yeah, you know what's funny? You said that that's actually what I wrote down. I said that's name value for him to kind of get people to start recognizing him. So I think that's a perfect matchup for him as well. I think Johnny Walker. I would have probably thrown in there Guskov. I said, maybe because it would have been a fun fight for us as fans, but name value and this and that. Like, you just beat Anthony Smith. Like, we've got to keep that going with another name. You can't just throw. He's fighting Guskov. Who the hell is that guy? You just beat Anthony Smith, the guy with the name. Like, now you got to go to someone else. So I can see him going Walker. Maybe Ozdemir would be a fun fight, but I don't know if he's quite ready for that yet. Like, the sample size is not big enough. Yes, and Ozdemir's good. The sample size is not quite big enough yet for Zhang. Like, I want to see if he can get past the first round. What does he do in the second and the third? And I think someone like Johnny Walker will get him probably into the second. And the leg kicks are great. The elbows, the clinch. Like, I think Zhang has a good chance of, and if he touches that chin, we all know Walker's chin is a little sus. And so if he touches that chin, it could be lights out. So I think that's the fight to make, is the Walker for name value.
I completely agree. And if that doesn't work out for whatever reason, then I think the two people right under him are solid. Alonzo Menafield has some name value there as well. Alonzo Menafield will always come to strike. So if you can't get Johnny Walker, I think Alonzo Menafield will make some sense. If we go back, one other fight, the featured fight of the evening was David Onama versus Giga Chikadze. This was a interesting type matchup because Giga was winning the striking exchanges. And Onama did what any real mixed martial artist would do, and he relied on his other tools, started wrestling, had success there, stuck with that game plan. A lot of people pissed at what Onama started to do, but you got to win a fight, and you're going to do what you can do to win because he was not winning those striking exchanges. So we'll start very quickly on the Giga side. Giga did lose this fight. He did not look as bad as I thought he was going to look. I thought Giga, with the long layoffs, fighting once every other year, he's been losing to clean, fast technical strikers. I thought he wasn't going to look great. He actually looked pretty good. What do you think they should do with Giga here? Just sort of continue to do what they're doing every now and then he'll fight, or actually try to make something of him because he never really lived up to his potential.
All right, so we're going with the loser now. You just swapped how we're going. Okay, that's fine.
I figured we would just do the whole main card.
Okay. No, it's okay. No, I understand. So with Giga, I like the fight. He's already fought him, but I like the fight that both of them now are coming off losses, and one of them is coming off 3 or 4 losses, I think, in a row, is Calvin Kattar. They've already fought, and that's a fight that Giga needs to get back. So that's a fight right there to have. So I think those two guys to get after it in Giga versus Calvin Kattar too. I think that'd be a great match. One of them's going to get a win, get back on the win track. That's normally what the UFC's MO is. And if you guys know that, is that if two guys have losses and they want to try to build one back. So especially if they're in the top 15, they'll have two guys that have losses fight each other. So at least one of them gets a win, and then they can kind of build back up on that one fighter.
Yeah, I think the Calvin Kattar matchup would work again. That was fun the first time. They're both a little older. Like you said, they're both coming off of losses. Calvin's loss was somewhat similar where, at the end of that fight, his opponent was running a little bit and it wasn't quite a blowout, but it was definitely clearly a loss. If not Calvin Kattar, I think Josh Emmett, because in my mind, Giga's a little bit past that prime. Josh Emmett is definitely past his prime, but Josh can be exciting. I would say Josh Emmett and Giga, and then just sort of be done with one of them at the end of it.
Yeah, but Giga's going to drop probably out of the top or towards the end of the top 15 after losing.
Yeah, he was 12 here. Onama's unranked, so he'll definitely drop down. Josh Emmett is sitting at 10th, and then Calvin is the last in the rankings at 15.
Yeah, look, I mean, he may stay in there, but only based on the fact that Brian Ortega is going to 55. Ilya's gone too into 55. Like, you've got guys that are out of here.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So that they're gonna drop and they're gonna get out of the division. So that opens up some room maybe for Giga to get back in there. But that being said, I think Giga and Josh Emmett's not a bad fight. Are you trying to get Josh out of there? Is that what you're trying to do?
I think you get rid of one of them. I think you just get rid of one. They're both on they're both on losing skids. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are very young anymore. Giga was never that exciting. Obviously, he had a couple of highlight kick situations, but that was 4 years ago at this point. So I think you kind of just move on.
So I understand with Giga, I really wouldn't try to bring him back into the top 15. Just my personal opinion, only because he's not active enough. So you're kind of just a placeholder now. And I would like Josh Emmett's active. He tries to fight as much as he possibly can. He's trying to cash out before he knows the career is over. And he's still in that top 10. I'd rather just cash out on somebody like Josh Emmett if I'm the UFC and just say, hey, he's willing to take whoever and he's willing to fight whoever. And he puts on great fights. He either gets knocked out or he knocks someone out or just something to go his way. He'll go out on his shield and he'll deliver big knockouts for us. Giga's just not an active enough fighter. So even if he does get a highlight reel knockout, I won't see him for 2 years. Yeah. And so that doesn't do me any good either. And so if I'm going to bank on somebody, I think if you keep Giga out of there and you have Onama in there, and then you've got, I don't know if I'd bring him back in to fighting somebody in the top 15, give him somebody else that's coming up. Unless you want to throw, I wouldn't even, never mind. I was going to say, somebody else, but no, I think this is good. What about Onama? Where do you go with him on?
If we go to the Onama side, I think Dan Ige is a good matchup. Dan Ige is always a gamer. Dan Ige is coming off that late finish. He was up on the scorecards, which that's a whole different conversation, but he's coming off that late finish fight. And, Onama's coming off of a pretty good win over a ranked guy. He had to resort to the wrestling, but we saw him change course halfway through a fight, make adjustments, and get it done. I think that's a good matchup between those two because they're both coming off wins. So let's see who we're going to move forward and do something with.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, but then I'm gonna actually go one step a little bit down. I'm gonna go down a little bit further. I'm gonna go Yusuf Zalal. The two of them on the feet would be fantastic. Zalal's gotten a lot better on the ground. The two of them would be a fun fight. Onama's long, lanky. Zalal is quick and explosive, can get in, get out. Like brings a different style of kickboxing. I think for the fans, it'd be a fun fight. Almost like a repeat of the Giga and Onama fight, but Zalal, making that historical little comeback that he's got going on right now after being in the UFC before, then getting kind of booted and saying, "Hey, come back." Now he comes back and having a good run. And so I think that's him and Onama. I don't know if they want to have these two guys who are relatively young, still they can still build around, have those two guys fight. But I mean, for I'm very selfish when it comes to these kind of things. I would like to see that fight myself, so that's why I picked that fight.
Who, when you were at American Kickboxing Academy, who was like your best training partner at your weight class?
Man, I had so many. I mean, you guys got to remember, I had Frankie Edgar, I had Gray Maynard, I had Tyson Griffin, I had Khabib, I had Islam, I had Umar. I mean, I had I had John Fitch, Josh Koscheck. Those guys were not in my weight class, but when I did have them in the beginning, they were the only ones in my weight class besides BJ Penn. So I had all those guys.
Would you have fought them?
No. I mean, we had talked about it a while. I said, look, I will fight you for the title. If it's for the title, I said, like, you're just kind of interfering. Like, we're both interfering with each other's futures and the livelihood, of our families and kids and whatever it is. And that's just not fair. That's why I give such respect. I feel it was ill-advised, but I mean, I give a lot of respect to Merab and to Aljo, waiting for him to lose a title, and Merab saying, I'll just keep beating everybody. What happens if Aljo never lost the title, though? Then you never made all the money you could have made. That's what's weird about the whole situation, right? Like, if Aljo never lost,
sure,
Merab still be sitting on the sideline right now going, man.
He'll still be waiting like a good teammate. So, yeah.
And the UFC would be like, bro, we can't keep having you beat the number one contenders. This just doesn't look good. So then what do you do?
Listen, I agree. You wouldn't fight your teammate. Noble thing to do. And David Onama's not fighting his. Him and Yusuf Zalal are teammates. So that's not happening. Who cares? You just did an old man rant for about 4.5 minutes.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing is, I don't know them and I don't care about them. So that's why I want them to fight. I told you right from the beginning, I am selfish. Okay, I want to see that fight. That's why I put that fight on there. Did you not hear anything I said, Angelo?
No, I was waiting for that. Was the longest setup. I was hoping to be 1-2, and then you're like, actually, one time 88 years ago.
Wow.
So like, oh, here we go. I'm gonna have to wait, and then I'm gonna throw it in his face at their teammates.
That's
very long setup.
And like I said, I'm very selfish when it comes to this stuff.
If they're
that fight, I want that fight to happen.
If they're not teammates, I do like that matchup just because, Yusuf Zalal is on this. Mm-hmm. He got cut, and, he got cut after a really tough slate. It's not like he sucked and they cut him. He got cut after a pretty tough slate of competition, did what he needed to do on the regional scene, came back. He's looked like a demon ever since. Obviously, the Calvin Kattar fight, he was running a little bit, but has looked phenomenal since. So I think that would be a good matchup. It likely doesn't happen. Yeah. So then we're probably going with the Dan Ige. And I don't think Onama was impressive enough to say, oh, go up a little bit to Jean Silva. When you had to resort to the wrestling, if you're getting tagged up by Giga, who's inactive, then Jean Silva's going to light you up.
Yeah. I mean, you could throw Calvin Kattar in there, but I mean, I would just simply say, I like the Zalal fight probably the most. And you use Dan. Dan Ige to me is just a spectacular person overall. He's just a great fighter. I love watching him fight. I can't say enough good things about the guy. I would just like to see him get a shot at somebody up there at the top. Instead of having to be this kind of like guy it's kind of like the gatekeeper between 11 and 12 and 13 and 15. Like, I want to see him get up there in that, in that top area there. I know he wouldn't fight Aljo because they have the same manager and all this other stuff, but I'd like to see them, in that mix somewhere in there. I mean, what about Arnold Allen? Something like that for a Danny Ige. Look, I know we're going off topic on this, but like for me, I've got so much appreciation for Danny Ige. I'd like to see him get, another run at that, getting close to that title.
He's definitely paid his dues to not be a gatekeeper. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, he's a fan favorite. People love him because of what he did, on short notice, day of takes the fight.
Oh, dude. Come on. We were there. Jacob and I were there in person. We found out like while we were there, we found out what happened, and people started a "Thank you, Dan" chant. Thousands of people were saying it. It was incredible. It was a real wonderful moment as a fan. If we go back, we take a look at Abus Magomedov, Michel Pereira. This was a bizarre fight. This was a really dicey, weirdo fight. We had two guys who usually do too much too soon and then gas, and not really anything happened. Obviously, Abus controlled this fight start to finish. It wasn't close at any point. He started to get a little tired in the third, but too little too late. Michel Pereira was in a staring contest. Michel Pereira is a guy that's doing backflips, doing all sorts of crazy nonsense. People were like, calm down. Too much is happening. And then this fight did literally nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. So if we start on that side, we'll start on the loser side, Michel Pereira. I don't know if you look at this as a one-off. Like this was an isolate. We've never seen him do anything like this before. It didn't make any sense. This is an isolated incident. He's got things going on in his personal life. He just didn't show up, didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Explain to me the things going on in his personal life. Go ahead, explain that.
His wife went ballistic on Instagram and Twitter like a month ago saying he's got girlfriend, he's got a girlfriend, he's got a girlfriend. And then she must have been like running through Twitter and she saw a picture that Jacob posted. Jacob posted a picture at the Apex. Every single fighter gets 3 free seats, right? While they're fighting, there's 3 seats they can give to whoever they want. When they're done fighting, those people have to leave. It's rotating seats. And as Michel was fighting, he was getting beat on by Anthony Smith in the main event. Jacob took a picture of those 3 seats and was like, this is his corner right now. And they were just not his corner, but his family and friends. And they were just like, didn't care. This attractive woman's like in her phone doing nothing. And so when Michel Pereira's wife is like deep diving, looking for controversy, she somehow finds this picture from 8 months earlier and is like, my husband's cheating on me with this woman. She's got a girlfriend. And it like blew up. It went nuts. She was going on Instagram, going crazy, going on Twitter, going crazy, talking about my lawyers, this, that, the other thing. So Michel Pereira is fighting for his life, trying to keep his life together. And, you know, Jacob's just getting dragged into it out of nowhere. And honestly, maybe there was a bit of that where his brain was literally just somewhere else because, you know, things aren't good at home. They're not going to be good in the cage. Or here's a theory I have. Or they are splitting and he doesn't want to give up. Let me make less, so I give out less kind of situation.
Yeah, that's
didn't want that win first.
That's the dumbest theory I've ever heard.
Well, that dude did nothing, and he's a guy who does everything, and it made no sense whatsoever. If I am looking at these rankings, honestly, this is kind of off the wall, but let's do Michel Pereira and Chris Curtis. Screw it.
I mean, yeah, I could see that fight. I mean, I like Chris Curtis a lot. I've had Chris Curtis on the podcast. Fun, you know, good guy, man, and very exciting. So yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even match Michel Pereira up. I was just like, the UFC's probably just like, man, who cares? I mean, look, there's gonna be fighters on this, and when we get into the lower card or whatever it is, I'm simply gonna say like, hey, they like once you get it, they don't care. There's certain fighters too that did win. And they're like, you're also older. Like, we're just going to keep matching you up against, you know, the younger talent. And eventually you're going to lose. And, you know, we're going to move on. We're going to keep using you that way because you're already in your 36, 37, 38, somewhere in there. And that's what they do. It's just common knowledge. I can see the Chris Curtis. I like Chris Curtis. So I think that's a fantastic fight. The two of them will get after it. I think that's a good fight. What do you do, though, with Abus?
Abus that's a tricky matchup because, you know, he did win the fight. But I think it was less about what he did and more about what Michel Pereira didn't do. Abus is putting together a couple nice wins in a row. Obviously, Sean Strickland stopped him. I don't think we quite need a rematch in that department. But I think if you do Abus and Brendan Allen, find out how good he is or is not. Or you can just do the final nail in the coffin of what's his name, who will break down a little bit, the Andre Muniz, and just let him and Abus fight. But I think do Abus and Brendan Allen, like let him work his way up. Or Paulo Costa's, God knows if he's going to fight again. Renier is booked. He just fought Michel Pereira. You could give him Roman Kopylov, who just beat Chris Curtis. That could be an interesting fight, but I think Roman runs through Abus. So I think you do Brendan Allen.
Yeah. So look, for me right now, they've given Abus so many opportunities, you know, to get something done. He hasn't. For me, it's more of a shit or get off the pot kind of situation. I think you match him up against Paulo Costa. Say, look, you either want this fight, and look, it's not like Paulo Costa is known for his great cardio.
Yeah,
so the two of them could, kind of be in there too in the same, but Paulo Costa will still bring the action. Even when he's tired, he takes a couple steps back, except for the Izzy fight, but he had so much wine the night before. So I understand where he's coming from. Bottom line is that he just needs to shit or get off the pot. Give him some name value. If he doesn't get it done, they're going to probably try to move on from him. Not so much cut him, but just, okay, now you're the guy that we're just going to match up against. We've given you all these opportunities and chances, and you've come up short every single time. You got to figure out what's going on with your conditioning, your cardio, your ability to press the action in the second and third round. And so when I'm thinking of that, I think Paulo Costa and the UFC is thinking to themselves, name value. This is your opportunity for the last time. I think they've given him 3 opportunities now, and he's lost the first 2. This is your chance now to get this done with the name value. And sure enough, this is it. So it would be, I think Paulo Costa would be the good fight.
That would make sense on the Paulo side too, because Paulo Costa is a marketable dude. He's good looking. He's funny online. His fights are always exciting, but he can't find a win. His last win was against Luke Rockhold, who hadn't fought in like 4 years. So yeah, he can't find a win. He's won in his last 4. He continues to lose. That would be a fight where he could beat Abus. And if he doesn't beat Abus, then you really don't belong here anymore. And if he does beat Abus, it's like, all right, we have a fun, exciting guy back in the win column. So I do like that matchup. If Paulo, ends up fighting, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. What else? What else are you thinking?
Well, then we got Randy Brown. I figure we'll just do the main card here. We got Randy Brown just absolutely demolished Nicholas Dalby, and he did it twice. In the first round, he took Nicholas Dalby's nose, moved it to the other side of his face, similar to what happened to Rich Franklin when Anderson Silva needed him. It was one of the worst nose breaks I have seen. Yeah. It was bad. But Nicholas Dalby, in that first round, with his nose facing the wrong direction, still managed to land clean, sort of rock Randy and create a little bit of stuff on his side. But Randy came out completely unfazed, blew through Dalby in that second round. One of the craziest knockouts we've seen. Yeah, I think Nicholas Dalby, I mean, you know how this goes. You're already a little older. Things start to go, and a bad knockout like that, the first knockout he's ever suffered, that chin's gone. It's not going to come back, and we're just going to see more and more and more of that until he retires.
Yeah, I agree. What do you do with Randy Brown?
I think Randy Brown won his last fight, and he won this fight. So I'm going to look at this assuming that he got that win, because I think he won that last fight. So now all of a sudden we have a giant welterweight who is doing some really impressive things. We could do Randy Brown and Ian Garry. It could be that matchup. I doubt Ian Garry goes down, right? He's not going to punch down in the rankings. So now if we're Randy Brown and we're looking up in the rankings, I think there's a lot of good matchups for him. I think Wonder Boy is probably a little older, but there is some name notoriety there. I think Randy Brown can... maybe he gets that winner of Buckley and Usman if you don't end up giving that to Ian Garry, or give him Kobe Covington. I memean, that dude's desperate for attention right now. But I do think you work him up the rankings.
But Brown's not in the rankings
at all.
So I would put him against, look, he's fought Vicente Luque. He lost to Vicente Luque. So I would probably give him Luque too. You go him and Vicente Luque number 2, or let me do one more. He gets the loser of Morales and Burns.
Sure.
Morales being young, a fight to be had there. If Morales loses, obviously he didn't have the experience to beat Burns, who is an older fighter, and you have him fight that fight, and you see how that all works out. And if Burns loses, then you get a little bit of name value, and you have a chance for Randy Brown to fight name value.
Yeah, that's the loser of that fight would make some sense. It likely is Burns, honestly, and there is the name value there. Old vet, figure out where you actually are, in this whole thing. The last person in these rankings is MVP. That could be a fun fight. 2 strikers who will get after it. It's one super long, one super fast. What's that going to actually? They're both super long, but what that could look like as well. Him versus MVP could be a fun fight.
Yeah, I would agree. What else you got there? You got Ikram. Who do you got for Ikram next?
Ikram Aliskerov is, interesting because he blew through Andre Muniz. But Andre Muniz, at this point, it's jiu-jitsu or bust. And even in this day and age, jiu-jitsu is harder and harder to have that kind of success with when everybody is training all the things. Ikram's another guy that he showed up, did the short notice thing, got smoked by Robert Whittaker, but there was a lot of built-in excuses. They flew him to the other side of planet Earth. It was on short notice, all that stuff. I think You work Ikram back up the rankings. He redeemed himself here. Obviously, the win went the way it was supposed to go. Give him Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori's coming off that close loss. Marvin Vettori looked decent in that loss to Roman Dolidze. Give him Marvin Vettori. That's a really tough test. You'll see where Ikram actually is in all of this in that matchup. And I think it's appropriate to bump him up a couple of spots and fight Marvin.
Okay, so you say Marvin Vettori. I'm okay with that fight. I'm actually going to go a little bit easier of a fight. I'm going to say, why don't you go with Michel Pereira? And because now you're going to get name value. Because the times that he's fought name value, he's lost. Now give him the opportunity to fight someone with the name value that we know he's potentially has all the skills to beat. And we just saw a really crappy performance, but he still has name value. Michel Pereira does over Ikram. Give him somebody that we can go ahead and start building him off of. He gets the win over Michel Pereira, then we can go ahead and move on to the next guy of, a Marvin Vettori or whoever else in that weight class. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't hate that. And I think you do solve two problems with that matchup. You figure out if Michel had an off night, and you figure out if Ikram's good or not, like what his deal actually is. So yeah, I think you solve a couple problems there. And even if let's say Michel does lose another fight, that would be 3 losses in a row. He has built enough like equity with the UFC, with the exciting fights, and a few, they always can rely on him as long as he doesn't have another boring performance. That even 3 losses in a row for Michel doesn't completely destroy his career. They'll just get another matchup that, it'll be a little more exciting. So I think that could be a fun matchup where you'll find out where they both actually sit in all this.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with you. Matt Schnell.
Oh, we're going down this whole card.
I mean, I picked out a couple of, not all of them. Not all
okay,
of
yeah,
them.
all right. I was only ready for Maine. So yeah.
No, I got you. Listen, look, for me, what I did with him is I basically said he needs one more fight on his comeback, and I didn't really pick anybody for him to do that on that, but I did go to Elder in the next fight. And did you go through that or not?
No, but I'll talk about Evan Elder. I was positive that dude was going to win, and his line continued to drop and tighten. I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
he is the better fighter.
Yeah. So Evan Elder, so you have him, and I'm like, who are you thinking would you possibly match him up with? And I like the style of his kickboxing. I like the way he's explosive. He did slow down a little bit in that, second and third, towards the middle of the second into the third round. But I mean, my honest opinion is, I put him against someone like a Saint Denis. The two of them, the boxing, the stand up, it would be a fun fight. I'm not ready to throw him all the way down into like a Fiziev, because we saw that he does get tired. Fiziev is in that round 2, 3. He's still a beast in rounds 2 and 3, as we saw when he fought Gaethje. I like that fight though, is against him and Saint Denis.
Yeah, I mean, it's that could be a good fight. That's a big jump because he's an unranked fighter, and Saint Denis is still ranked despite some highs and lows. Yeah. Evan Elder is a good kickboxer. It was an interesting situation though, where he was having success. Obviously, he was better pretty much everywhere. But I didn't see like explosive combinations. It did feel very much like one punch, one kick, one strike at a time. I would go right to the bottom of the top 15 and do Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is on a tear right now. He's tall as hell. He's been striking lately. And Joel has a bunch of fights, but he doesn't have that crazy high level experience just yet.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you do anything with Blackshear?
DaMon Blackshear looked good. He was hesitant, though. I think he's getting a lot of credit for half of a staring contest. I think if we're looking at DaMon Blackshear, he is putting together a nice little record for himself. He's doing a lot of good things. He's a technical kickboxer. He can grapple as well. He's got sneaky good submissions. I think with DaMon Blackshear, you kind of just got to find out, is this good? Is this dude good or not? And I think Kyler Phillips is a good matchup.
There you go. I picked the same guy.
There we go.
Perfect matchup. Kyler Phillips is tough all the way around, good on the feet, very unorthodox. Can he deal with his style of stand-up, and also very crafty on the ground? And then I went into like Wellmaker and Cuamba and stuff. The bottom line is I need a bigger sample size against against better level competition. But they do have a lot of potential. Looking forward to seeing them fight again. That was kind of where I wrapped it up, even with Amarim. Jack, I call her Jack, but her name is Jacqueline. We call her Jackie. With her too, like she just needs a little bit more of a sample size, I think too. Like she needs more work, a couple more rounds. Needs to work on her ground and pound. Needs to work on her striking. She's good at closing the distance. Just you saw from the top position, had mount, couldn't get off hardly any real strikes, to get the ground and pound there. Landed a couple good elbows in the 12-6, but nothing major. So those 3 fighters, I think, need a little bit more of a sample size on them before we start moving them into any fighters in the top 15.
I completely agree. And the other standout on this card was Jocelyn Edwards on that undercard. She opened up the card with a rare women's knockout, and she looked real good. And Chelsea Chandler's enormous, and it didn't matter. Jocelyn Edwards blew right through her, but she has missed weight 4 times. No, she's just big as shit. She's big.
What does that even mean? Big. They both made the same weight class.
No, Chelsea's big, dude.
They both made the same weight. What does that mean?
Like she's like fee fi fo fum big, like at the top of a beanstalk.
Did people say that to you when you were a kid?
You know what did happen though? Not when I was a kid. I coached wrestling forever, and the kids were all doing like neck bridges and warming up, and I'm walking around. And 2 of them were like, fee, fi, fo. As I was walking by, I was like, you little bastards.
I could see that.
Spin drill now.
Oh, man. Wait, man, that's going to wrap up our show on this, I believe.
Wait, we got 2 super chats. We got 2 super chats. One is for you.
Okay.
It's from Live Dogs MMA, a gentleman I don't necessarily like, but he came here to show love for you. $2 super chat said, came to remind Josh that he beat Benson Henderson. So there you go.
Go ahead. How do you feel about that, Angelo? Tell me.
I don't remember the fight, honestly.
Oh, Jesus, man. It was like right there in your, like near your backyard. Chicago, Connecticut. They're all very close, right?
Yeah, those are so close to each other.
It's somewhere up there where it's always freezing and cold. Like desolate and just horrible weather all the time. And I happened to fight there in the middle of January, by the way. It was so damn cold there. It was freezing. I couldn't walk from across my hotel to like get breakfast without covering my face. It was miserable. Bottom line is, you know what? I actually agree with him. I do. I did beat him. I thought I did.
Sure
I beat him with one hand. I beat him with one hand. I literally broke and tore every ligament in my thumb in the first round, and fought the rest of the fight. Should have been able to finish him, just couldn't do it. But hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. What else you got for us?
And then Bet Sam said, feed Ian to my boy Buckley. We talked about that, and we agree, or assuming Buckley wins, and they were supposed to fight anyway. If Buckley loses, I don't think Ian Garry should be fighting somebody off a loss, given what he's been doing. So I agree with that, Bet Sam. Any last words for the people?
No, man. Hey, it's a pleasure, man. This can be a fun little thing that we do, and I'm looking forward to it. And man, this will be what reoccurring, I think, is what we're talking about.
Let's do it every Sunday after every event.
All right. Talk about the outside of because we have kids sports. I literally rushed home. I did what you did. Yeah. Rushed home, got the kids some dinner, and fed them, put them, got them showered up because my son had 3 games today, back to back to back, and then of course the last 2 were later in the evening, and got the kids showered, got them in bed. Daughter was like, hey, can you read me a book? I'm like, oh man. So we were battling back and forth over how long the book should be. Had to jump on here. You're texting me like, hey man, I'm running behind. And I was like, oh no. So literally trying to cram it all in, get it in here. But hey, this is gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, a couple hundred of you watch live every Sunday. Count on it for the most part, and come with what you think the matchup should be. Help us out in these videos. Thanks for watching Bad Takes. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you next week.